Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the second day of Indegene Digital Summit. Thank you for joining me for the MarTech session today. And what we would like to talk about today is that most companies are aiming for marketing excellence to deliver the business capabilities for generating meaningful customer experiences. They are trying to achieve this business goals by clarifying their strategies, needs, and pain points of their teams. Ultimately, in this journey, there is no one size that fits all, but a well-crafted data-driven MarTech strategy can move you into future. What we think is focusing on customer-based or outcome-based solutions, you can move your business into the future. How do you stay agile and nimble towards changing business needs and constantly evolve your capabilities? We would love to hear from panelists today, and today I have distinguished panelists joining us, Chad Lacrosse joining us from Chicago, and Christian Stuppi joining us from Mainz, Germany, Giuseppe Frinzi, who's joining us from Indianapolis, again in USA. With that said, I'm going to have each of the panelists introduce themselves a little bit and what really interested them to join our panel today before we go into a discussion. Chad?
Thank you, Indu. And thank you, Indegene, for the opportunity to talk about this interesting topic. My name is Chad Lacrosse, and I'm the head of U.S. Commercial Brand Technology and Commercial Operations Technology at AbbVie. At AbbVie, our mission is to make a remarkable impact on patients' lives, and I have an opportunity to do that through data and technology. Some of the things that we're working on right now that are really interesting and I'm passionate about that really connect to this same topic are things like trying to increase the intelligence in a seamless way of our field force, trying to orchestrate a great customer experience by connecting sales and marketing, and also trying to drive extreme transformation in our content production and drive really content velocity. So thank you again, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Chad. I'll take it from here. Christian Stuppi from Merck KGaA in Germany. And as the science and technology company, of course, technology is at the heart of what we do. And as part of my role in our global IT healthcare organization, my passion is to bring enabling ecosystems to our countries across the globe. So I bring the global perspective, rolling out solutions to plus 50 countries where, of course, every country claims that they are the most unique country in the world. And with my IT mandate, driving simplification, driving a consistent architecture, I think this is one of the most interesting places to be here today. And yeah, within the session, I hope I can share a bit of our journey and hopefully also give some inspiration and some thoughts, what we've learned and what maybe helps all of you in your own MarTech evolution journeys.
Thank you, Christian, and great to be here. My name is Giuseppe Firenze. I'm working for Eli Lilly & Company. Very excited to be here. I'm the information officer for the business units. So basically I run IT across sales and marketing and medical for all the affiliates in the world, including all the operations teams that support those organizations. And I'm very driven to drive customer engagement. I've been very passionate in my career to do a lot of projects, especially in Lilly International, around how we can impact and how we can connect with our customers, being ACP or even a consumer. And I spent my career basically focusing in three areas, what I call system of records, system of engagement, and system of intelligence. I think we have a massive opportunity with the MarTech evolving and accelerating. The pandemic is giving us a great opportunity to build on new norms, especially on the hybrid model. So very passionate around that. And why this is my second year, and thank you for my partners and friends in Indegene to invite me again to a panel. I see two major benefits for this conference. One, I believe all of us, we have common problems. So this is an opportunity to share those common problems and hear from each other, of course, and share how we are trying to solve those problems at a decent level, right, of detail. And the second one, to me, is very important, is to create a network so we can continue to connect each other even post the event. So great to be here, and thank you, Indu, for facilitating the session.
Thank you, Giuseppe. And that was a wonderful way to start our conversation today. And thank you for all the wonderful introductions. And we definitely know where your focus is on and how you're thinking, etc. So, Giuseppe, maybe I would want to start with you because you mentioned about driving CX, um, capabilities driving CX, right? What do you think are the business capabilities needed for running commercial operations? And where are you leveraging MarTech to transform the business model to drive those capabilities?
So thank you, Indu. I mean, I think when we talk about commercial operations, trying to define a little bit the domain here. I mean, in a very generic terms, is what we call sales operations or omnichannel operations, right? And marketing operation, bring them together. That is the heart of our commercial operations, and all the other operations that are mostly, and all of us, we spend a lot of our years in our career to do as well what we call sales enablement, right? So from my end, and looking at, especially for the pandemic and our change agenda on how we can drive customer engagements and improve those engagements with outstanding experiences. I think from my end, and recently I think I was listening to what Chad said, where he's focusing on, looks like more or less everybody's focusing in the same area. We're focusing basically in three areas. One is, I think everybody's aware, the more we're trying to personalize through the segments and go to our omni-channel desire, right? There is definitely a problem around how we can solve for the content, right? The more you will need to personalize, the more content we will need to create. But how we can do that at scale, I would say, but in the other way, how we can do that in a cost-efficient way. So that is, I would say, the first element we are trying to solve. The second one, typically in our regulated industry, we have lead times on our MLR processes that are pretty complex and long. Is there an opportunity we can compress those? Because the more you create content, that is the second barrier you need to solve to then reach the customer, right? So that is the second area. And the third area, even though it's not easy and has a lot of complexity due to all the MarTech offerings you see in the market versus your current legacy investment that all of us have done along the years, is the omni-channel orchestration. That is the third element we're focusing on. Definitely there is a lot of work behind the scenes on data enablement, because all those three components that makes you forced to rethink your data strategy, how data is going to be consumed, how you want to make sure that data is flowing across the three macro areas, and how much you want to democratize probably as well within your community of marketeers. And last but not least, I would say these challenges, I would say we are focusing in marketing, but more and more, I believe the medical component is another component, and there is going to be a lot of synergies that we will need to face, I think, in the near future around that. But those three I think, are my, let's say, short-term and medium-term obsessions here at Lilly.
Thank you. Chad, that brings me very much to your question, right? And you mentioned extreme transformation in content, in content which you are working on. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about what is actually driving your MarTech strategy, right? Is it a pain point, or is it more of a commercial strategy? What is really driving you?
Yeah, I would say it's certainly anchored in our commercial strategy at AbbVie. Everything we do is centered around the North Star patients. And we understand from looking at parallels in other industries that personalization can create value both for the consumer as well as for our company. And that's a win-win situation. And as Giuseppe mentioned, to create personalization, creating more content could just be cost more money. And so we're really focused on how to drive a more cost-effective way of producing content. And of course, I'm a firm believer of the phrase, time is money. So if you can go faster things will be less expensive. And then you're also able to produce a lot more content that's more relevant. And so you can move beyond sort of the traditional market research-based segmentation, use digital data, use your insights that you're able to capture through test and learn or just through analysis of the information, and really identify all those unmet needs of the stakeholders in which we try to communicate with digitally. Now for us, I break that content lifecycle into 3 parts. And I think Giuseppe talked specifically about the promotional material review section. I think of that as the middle section of the process. There's an upfront section where marketing and their digital agencies and the creative teams are iterating on what's the right content. And the middle part is that approval part. And then on the back end, it's the digital publication or digital publishing process. And we're working on all 3 segments. And I think we need to absolutely get more agile and faster in the approval process, but we also need to speed up the way that we collaborate on the digital content up front. And we need to get more effective in the way that we publish and reuse approved content on the back end.
Wonderful. So what I understood basically was that content, pain points in how content is being produced and going through the review cycle is primarily driving the strategy on your MarTech end. While that's happening, Christian, what do you Merck KGaA is a 352-year-old company. I'm sure there has been a lot of thought put into technology ecosystem and how it evolved. In your experience, what do you see as the best practices, the pitfalls to watch out for? And I'm sure each of you have experiences to share in that regard. Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Indo. And I'd like to really tie it together with what Giuseppe and Chad were saying, how to drive agility, how to drive personalization, how to reduce costs, and the best learning or the picture I want to describe from a MarTech architectural point of view is I see our customer engagement system as a house. And with every construction you're doing, you have to build it on a very, very solid foundation. Otherwise, everything you start to build on top is gonna fall apart. And for me, the 3 foundational elements are, of course, CRM in its fashion as one of the core systems. It's there, and it's one key pillar that makes a strong MarTech ecosystem. Second one for me is asset management and content approval. So how do you really drive that speed? What concepts do you have to break down elements of content for improved approval speed? And the third one that I think is even more important these days is your clear around how to deal with all your operational data that you're generating, that you need for segmentation, that you need to drive for personalization. And with those 3 foundational layers, CRM, asset/content management, and your data strategy, for me, that is your foundation. And on that foundation, you start to build your different rooms of different channels. You add a couple of rooms, maybe you redo some interior, you play around with new technologies, maybe add a solar roof on top, like play around with novel ways of interacting. And I think that picture allows you to also move in different speeds. You want to be cognizant and stable on your core, and you want to allow that flexibility on the layers on top. And with every house that you have in place, one last recommendation is don't forget your regular cleaning. I think the corners get dirty quite quickly. You don't want to add all that technical debt here and there. You really want to make sure that you have a clean slate and have sufficient time to keep that in order. And I think that enables, from a technology point of view, that journey that we're all striving for, and will allow us to act quickly while keeping the investments at state that we have made over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and if I would add, Christian, I love your house analogy. I think one of the typical pitfalls you might have here is, I like what you said, is we like sometimes to build a lot of new rooms in the house, but sometimes we are building those in a way that if I need to build a different one and I want to build a playroom, I'm gonna be confined. So I love your analogy. I believe we need to have a solid core, right? So the foundation of the house, the main rooms, living room and kitchen is always the same. But then, as you said, because of the MarTech major offerings, especially on the system of engagement of the system of intelligence that is exploding on the market, how we can be agile to immediately, change a room, and maybe it's not changing the room, but bringing new IKEA furniture, right, to enjoying the room better, right, to have a better return on asset. And last but not least, I love what Chad said. I omit that it's not about just the MarTech. There is the people, processes component that is foundational. To me, there is another one usually we don't cite, which is the mindset. I think we need to change our mindset, instill agile ways of working to maximize the value, right? And, how we can cook using a lot of microwaves rather than just using the oven. If we can be agile in that way, there is a huge opportunity to create impact for our customer, engage them, and even at some point to go to the mantra that all of us in marketing we have, which is, personalizing a segment of one. So I love your house analogy. That's why I wanted to build on, but strong foundation and agile components is very key to always be modern and up to date.
And I'll build on that further. Like when you start building a house from scratch, it's important to have an architect who can lay out what that foundation and sort of how you're going to use your land and how you're going to make sure that you follow the regulations that are associated with the region in which you are building. And I think in today's world, given the number of different solutions that exist, we've probably all seen the infographics that show the number of ad tech technologies that have exploded, how many new things are available every year. Having really solid architecture and cross-platform architecture that really cuts across data, engagement, activation, content, and analytics, I think is super important to not ending up with a crazy house that can't be maintained or cleaned, and that follows all the regulations that exist that are out there.
I think it's so well said. I'm sure this is like, I love the analogy of the house which is building up on the forum right now. So a lot of this is being, how most companies, every company is becoming a learning organization. And Jessica, I would like to hear from you, like, what are the sources you're going to use? What are the sources you normally go to use to keep yourself abreast of what's happening? And how do you learn about this? Are you reading, newsletters, reports? What do you source them?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I mean, that is an interesting question, actually, to understand. This is one of the sources, this summit. I would say always scanning a little bit, all of us, probably most of my colleagues here in the panel, we use even other, sources, kind of authority, think about Gartner and others. I personally speaking, I'm always very interested to go off the industry. I have a lot of connectivity with, because of other strategic partners we have here at Lilly, that ask them, I would like to connect with Coca-Cola, I would like to connect with a major chain of hotels. So that I'm always trying to understand how other industries, they are solving for the customer. Everybody has, at the very end, the same intent. And sometimes they are solving in a way that is giving us an opportunity to challenge all of us to other boundaries. I think most of us, sometimes we are confined mentally because we are in a regulated industry that maybe is more, I call it, we're more inclined to say no, and I'm saying no, inclining, first of all, can I say yes? And then I can go to a no, but how I can get a yes, right? So I'm using always other industries to start to challenge the internal system within the organization to say, all right, I understand we are regulated, but what about if we could do a scale down of this opportunity? So I think that is more intriguing for me as, again, I'm very, maybe it's culturally speaking, being Italian, I love to build the networks in this way, but I have to say that in a couple of examples, in this period, I'm working a couple of projects on the measurement side. I think I've been inspired by more the consumer industry in what we are trying to do here. So that would be maybe the two major sources, of course. Keep abreast with, let's say, more source of authority type of events or events like this with our strategic partners. But don't hesitate to challenge yourself to connect with other industries. There is a lot to learn. And the other industries, they have a churning cycle that is even faster than ours. They are, launching products in a faster way because of the nature of those industries. So there is an opportunity definitely there in terms of scale operations, in terms of how you can drive cost efficiency, and how you can drive tougher conversation with your vendors. I love that.
Chad, I know you've been nodding away. So would you want to add something here?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Indu. I think a lot of what Giuseppe said resonates the same with me. Christian, Giuseppe, and I have had, we've been fortunate to be successful in our careers in IT. And if there's one thing that you have to do to have a successful IT career, that's continuously learn. The technology is changing so fast that if you don't have a continuous learning mindset, you're going to really be left behind. And I think that like he said, that's every and any source. It's a lot of listening, it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of searching, it's a lot of triangulation of different information from different points. But it's one of the highest priorities on my agenda. I think the other thing, like what Giuseppe said, is not to get too stuck on what you're doing today, or even what our industry is doing today. But we're really at AbbVie, we're really benchmarking ourselves against other industries. We've chosen as an example the financial services industry. If you look at the digital maturity of the financial services industry, that's also a regulated industry. They're providing products and services, and they found a way to transform their business to do that digitally. And they're doing it at scale, and they're personalizing, and it's complex, and they've got many different business units. That's something that we take a lot of, that's an industry in particular that we take a lot of, we focus on as a way to try to learn and then figure out how to apply it to the unmet needs of our customers in the biopharmaceutical industry.
And I would like to add, sorry, Chad, to interrupt. This is an area that the learning and exploring. In what I learned is sometimes we have a lot of opportunities. All of us, we are focusing on the major markets. There are a lot of ideas and innovation that is happening, especially in Asia pockets. China is a major element of those opportunities. So what I'm saying is sometimes we go externally, we look at benchmark with our pharma competitors, right? And I say, no, let's look at other industries. Thank you, Chad, for sharing your perspective on the financial industries. But there are some geographic innovations that within the house, in our house, sometimes we are not looking at that and thinking maybe this is an opportunity we might need to think about, and thinking at scale that could be a game changer for our customers. So I would add, listening at this point, I would add as well that element, because sometimes we don't know what we don't even know, how much opportunities we might have within our organization.
Maybe just to complement that thoughts with yet another idea that we've done a couple of times over the last years. We partnered up with a leading university in Switzerland and with Stanford. They have a well-orchestrated design thinking partnership. We basically run that for about with 15 super enthusiastic master students. You drop them a challenge, and then they take it from there. And it's unbelievable what they were able to report back what insights they were getting from their interactions with our stakeholders, even with the HCPs. Eye-opening, I have to say. It's basically when you don't have that 20 years of industry experience, when you take a look at a challenge in those young students, really, they challenge the status quo and really make you think, well, have we just only done it that way, or is there really a reason why we do it that way? And I always found that super refreshing, and it's organized in a super nice way that we also get the insights from all other companies running similar engagements than with Stanford and St. Gallen. So even from a networking point of view, that was a very rich experience that I can highly recommend.
Yeah, wow. Excellent. Academia. Yeah.
That's so interesting that we alluded to consumer, hospitality, finance industries, and even partnering with different educational institutions in the learning process. A very interesting conversation. Chad, actually, that brings me earlier when you said something about, the architecture, a plethora of ad tech driving architecture, and how your architecture needs is supposed to be robust to kind of integrate all this coming in. So what I'm very interested to learn about today is what are some of the decision points which drive you to either optimize, buy, or build your MarTech ecosystem?
Yeah, that really interesting question. First, before I answer the question directly, I'd say that one of the hardest things that we have to do as IT leaders is balance the paradox of building towards a North Star that's a beautifully designed architecture with everything integrated and with no technical debt, and balancing the speed and immediate needs that a given brand or market has within our business, and that's no small feat. But when it comes to that sort of scalable architecture in doing those buy versus build kind of decisions, first off, we need to recognize that there are technology companies that are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in IT research and creating new technologies, new features, new platforms, right? So if we keep, on the other hand, there's this concept of, does this create a competitive advantage for our company, right? And so having a very clear framework for decision-making around what are the things that are a competitive advantage, and when it comes to building, maybe not building them bespoke from scratch, but how do we use technology platforms to create solutions that have a competitive advantage? And I think that's sort of our mission, is to create platforms or implement platforms and integrate platforms that allow us then to innovate and create those types of competitive advantages, as opposed to maybe building something purely from scratch. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Hey, Chad, this is one of most debated arguments I've been experiencing in my career with the famous build or buy. You're talking with someone that has a huge bias for buy, especially, as you said. I believe tech is could give you a competitive advantage. I do believe, looking at then real example of business cases, that adoption and execution, they will give you as well competitive advantage. So I think there is that component that has been always, because everybody say, well, there are these major players that we have in the industry. Don't want to say anyone, just to not do some advertisement here. Everybody is using those major platforms. But then where the competitive advantage comes, I like what you said, comes one from the integration, so how you enable the ecosystem, comes from how you are agile within your ecosystem, but then at the very end it comes from as well the execution, right? Is what we said always in marketing, we said channel is the queen, at the very end the content is the king. I can have the best system of engagement ever. I can have the best omni-channel orchestration, ideally, if we can achieve that ever. But if I don't have the most compelling content, I don't get the engagement, right? So I'm trying to make sure that we don't think that tech is going to give us the competitive advantage. There are other elements we need to put stack together to get competitive advantage. Last but not least, upskilling the organization. Just moving an organization, not my IT organization is already working with Agile, but start to align the business partners to Agile is not a walk in the park, right? So all those components are crucial. Definitely, if the core is failing, meaning our tech, you will not be able to stack up to the next level you want to operate and therefore achieve that competitive advantage you're looking for. But I had a lot of conversation with my business partners where they believe that just the tech is going to do it all. No, you need to have all the other components. And as leaders, we need to be as well business leaders to remind them that they need to focus as well to the other components to be successful.
So that actually brings me to another question, which Christian, I would like to direct at you. Two probably questions, which I'm going to combine to one. One is like, I know that you're working in the global arena for Merck KGaA, and what do you need to think about when you're bringing innovative MarTech solutions, which are required, especially as a next step for your regions? And what is that tech stack which is going to be getting you into a future-ready state? I'd love to hear from you, your perspective, and followed by the other panelists. Yeah.
Thanks, Indo. And Chad and Giuseppe have already tapped a bit into that underlying buy versus build question. And from my point of view, it even has a third dimension, and that is time. A build decision may be right at a certain time, while a buy decision may be even better at another point in time. So I think we really have to continuously also watch out how our underlying core components are evolving. If we made a build decision in the past and now it's becoming part of the core platform offerings, and we cannot just rely on the decision we made 2 years ago. We have to, let's say, bite the bullet and discontinue the investment we had in the past to leverage an even stronger platform or capability that we now get out of the box as part of the major vendor offerings. I think that flexibility and not sticking to decisions is one thing that I see as important. And very practically in that area, if I only would take our major 3 or 4 global technology partners, the rate of change that they're bringing solutions to the market is immense. So as a small practical tip, make sure that you stay on top of what is coming, what the roadmaps look like, and that you have a clear process in how to adopt that and really make it part of your solutions. It's not happening once, definitely happened more often that we came across features that had been out there a while ago and we just missed it in that ever fast way of getting solutions to the market. So make adoption really something you do as a core discipline and have a solid process to align roadmaps with strategic partners and take that up as a priority.
So would you extend that for regions? I understand you're global, so would that differ by region to region? That
is what I was about to say. The second part of the question, and there again, Giuseppe mentioned that really also looking for innovation in local markets, in local ecosystems, and also again being flexible. If let's take China for example. And they're super driven on how they interact with their customers over a local platform like WeChat. While we know that platform is not going to be used in any other markets, that paradigm of interaction, of course, can be adopted to other channels, into other regions. So really having that flexibility to spot patterns that work in other countries and really abstract that to more generic use cases then see how that could be applied then in other regions, and not get stuck with, okay, it's a local technology, it's not going to be used in any other part of the world and ends there. It's really going deeper, understanding what experiences are generated there, and then take a look and discuss with a global group, well, how could that apply or how could that be applied in other areas?
Giuseppe, do you want to add anything out here before I move to the next?
No, I think Christian and I think the three of us, we gave kind of additional perspectives on your last question. Definitely, this is the typical question. We could have another event, I believe, next time. So I'm suggesting topics for you to bring to your organization, maybe for next summit. But I think this is an area where there is a lot to share and bring a little bit of co-creation, a little bit sharing experiences.
Understood. So yeah, we will definitely do that, certainly. And Chad, that brings me to ask actually the most pertinent question in the CIO organization. Are your MarTech investments delivering on marketing ROI? What is your methodology to measure that?
Oh, great question, Indu. Within our culture at AbbVie, we certainly never implement technology for technology's sake. Everything that we do is tied to an unmet need of our customer, an unmet need of a patient, or in a business strategy. And I think we're very disciplined, working with our marketing analytics and business insights team to make sure that we've got a measurement plan in place that allows us to quantify the impact of the technology investments that we make. Sometimes, we can speak about that in the context of ROI or of script lift. Other times, when we're talking about the unmet needs of a patient and patient services, that may not be the right measure to look at it. It may be a better measure to understand our patients getting healthier? Are they getting the medicine that they need? But both in either case, right, having a methodical as part of your implementation to define those success criteria, to establish a measurement plan, and then to work with your commercial partners, whether that be in the brand or whether that be in marketing analytics, in order to be able to implement such a measurement plan and monitor it.
Thank you so much for that answer. And I know this is a tough question and a lot to speak about it, but we will handle that in another forum. So Giuseppe, one thing which I would probably do injustice to the forum if I don't touch upon is automation, right? And technology and automation and AI buzzwords we're hearing, they have become a reality and they are become intuitive, right? Could you tell us a little bit about which areas of automation you're focusing on to at least free up your marketeers' bandwidth to kind of be more, customer-centric?
Yeah, and I would say this is an area where a little bit gray area, but I would say probably there are three areas where there are opportunities. Now, some are areas where sometimes pursuing, some are still more on the thinking. One, definitely, when you talk about content authoring, there is a huge opportunity there to automate, right? And leveraging templates. This is not a secret for all of us, but how to make it happen, that is an opportunity. The second one, I think, is one of my personal obsession is how you can get within the MLR process. That is highly resource intensive, is creating reward for our colleagues in marketing as well, right? And creating additional workload to our colleagues in medical and regulatory. That is an opportunity. This is where the strategic partnership with the vendors you're going to select, they give you opportunities or not. So this is the famous build versus buy. And there is a third one that probably is not sometimes visible to the marketing organization, but is delivering opportunities. There is what I call data crunching in all the automation around the data aggregation, servicing, self-servicing reports and all of that. That is an area where we are investing because it's not creating value. There are a lot of opportunities, but with automation comes not only a productivity, comes as well to redefine roles and responsibilities as well. That is another tension, especially on the content side, that I believe sooner or later we're going to face. Now, if you're asking me, are we achieving what ideally I've envisioning in terms of being a little bit more automation at scale? We're not there. The three areas where at least I see in my mind where there are the opportunities more in the short run.
Thank you so much for that answer. If any of the panelists would like to add anything to that, I would like to hear.
Yeah, no, I think Giuseppe said it really well, and I'll just double down on the aspect of turning data into insights. There's a lot of time and in people time within the commercial organization spent trying to identify the meaning in all of the different kinds of data. And we've got a lot of data, but to identify meaning there and really working on that sort of self-service reporting capability, not so much even just reporting, but self-service insight generation and insight identification.
Well said.
Maybe to look to that, to chat what is one observation is on that automating insights. There often is a question that the bar is set like super high, that the insights need to be like brilliant and something that you would never have come up yourself. What I'm arguing is, well, if you can only just provide it a lot more efficient, even if the insight is not revolutionary, if you just need a lot less time and can produce a lot more of that insights, that is a good starting point. You can always drive your sophistication there. However, your process of automation, prioritization, really getting the organization attuned to working with generated insights is, I think, a good solid step in such an automation journey.
Thank you all for joining us today morning and sharing your experiences and your journey within your organizations. Like what Christian mentioned, it takes us longer to get to the next step than it took us to get to the first step, right, in this journey. And I do believe that the continuous learning organizations are the way to go about to achieve that future state. And it was very interesting to hear that we're learning from consumer hospitality and finance industries. I also like the fact that, Chad mentioned about data driving insights, and that's one of the main things which we are focusing upon, while channel is the queen and content is the king, and we now know where the action is in the MarTech ecosystems. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.